perfect. And I'll probably be moving the camera once or twice.
Whatever.
Okay.
That's fine.
Should I get another angle from here or from there? So there's a little bit of a glare coming from there.
So, Professor, I saw that the baseball book was completed and it's out there selling.
Yeah, it's out there. Just for the purposes of the camera. Okay, it's out there.
And I went to the archive at the repository.
And Cal State San Bernardino?
And to look at the pictures of no, it was the one, I think two professors from UCLA. It's called, the repository, the baseball repository. Is it San Bernardino?
No, it's at Cal State San Bernardino.
San Bernardino. That's who.
Yes, yeah. We have the oral histories that were done here in the class at Cal State LA.
Right.
That began the project. Really, the project kind of evolved. It began really as the Mexican-American Baseball Project. And it began right here on this campus. And it actually began with a visit from an organization called the Baseball Reliquary. The executive director, Terry Cannon, he came and he had a conversation with the then dean of the library, which was Cesar Caballero. And Cesar and I got together with Terry and we thought, well, this is really a great idea. Historians are paying much more attention to sports and recreation, and baseball can be maybe one of those avenues to uncover it. So it then became a class. We did it as an independent special, a 490 for Chicano Studies, and for history, we used the number 450 back at that time. They've since changed the descriptions of that, so we want to be accurate with that you can't use that number today. But we did it under that rubric, and it was really terrific in the sense that we had some very dedicated, good students. The historiography is very, very limited in terms of baseball in the Mexican-American community, but the couple of things that were out there, about 6, 7 articles, and a couple of general books, but not talking about Los Angeles or the community. They were able to read them and get inspired by them. And then we also got some people that we had already connected with that played baseball. They came to the class and they gave lectures. But it became one of these things that just got a life on its own and just got all sorts of connections with the local community. That I would get phone calls right here. People who wanted to attend the class, and then I would also even get phone calls from people who wanted to teach the class, who wanted to lecture in the class. And we had a time slot of once a week from 6:10 to 10 o'clock, and I tell you, we would take a short break, but I wasn't getting out of here until 11 o'clock, and the students didn't want to get out of there until about 10:30 at night. And so it was just one of those, really exciting events. So as a result of the class, we then had those oral history interviews done in the community. We were able to track down people. And then the photographs, that many of them collected, we had that, so we did an exhibit here. And you are all students at Cal State LA, and very often, because most of our students are very busy, they come from busy families, we really don't get that many people who go to some really great events that we have here. So we had an opening of the exhibit scheduled on a Sunday afternoon, and I just found it amazing because we had a good 500 people here for the opening of it. And as a result of that, we also got Life in Times, KCT television program, come, and they did an interview. Also, Channel 9, one of their Community Features did another interview with us, and then we did a radio thing, and Telemundo came out and did something else, and so with all that type of response, the exhibit then became a moving exhibit, went to Trade Tech, and if I may, we got a hat for that, and many of the students finally realized when they drive on the 710 freeway right here, you drive by, you probably already know, and you see the little pig with the bat for the Carmelita Provision Company right there, the chorizo company. You know, that Carmelita once sponsored the choriceros. And the choriceros, the sausage makers, were really a team that dominated in East Los Angeles, beginning in the 40s, through the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s. Actually, the team still exists, it's still sponsored, but that was their high point. And so I'd like to call them the Yankees of East LA. And we did a really nice presentation to the Society for American Baseball Research when they had their meeting in Long Beach on the choriceros. We did a real nice presentation for them. So all that publicity, the exhibit and everything, then led myself, together with the Baseball Reliquary, together with a couple of historians, largely in the CSU, Jose Alamillo from Channel Islands, also Richard Santillan from Cal Poly Pomona. He's actually a political scientist by training, but a great baseball man and baseball fan, and which we co-authored this book, which is really kind of the first stage in this project. In order to really give visibility to the project, instead of handing people like a calling card like that, we hand them this. This is what we're about. And using this publication as a way to get interviews, as a way to get people to donate their photographs and their equipment, etc., make that connection. So that was basically the idea behind this book, because we are still in our infancy, so to speak, in terms of really developing the archival base, the oral history base, to really write a number of articles or move towards monograph publication. So this is how we're doing it. And for myself, having been a professor for over 30 years and having taught a number of different institutions, and being here at Cal State LA some 28 of those years, this has probably been the most gratifying for myself, in the sense that I can really see a connection between the work that we do here with the local community. Because as you know, my appointment is joint. It's between Chicano Studies and History. And being a joint appointment, a lot of my motivation in being in Chicano Studies was to have a connection with the community, be able to contribute in some small way to social change and historical awareness. And I've been involved with a lot of different projects over the years, but this particular project, I guess I've come more face to face with people, and I've become really, really close with them. And it's kind of like we do these exhibits, we do these panel discussions, we publish these books, and we get these families that come. So it's not just the players, but it's their wives, it's their children, it's their grandchildren. And we get to know them, and they share their history with us, and so it's been amazing. It's been really a nice venture to be involved in.
Professor, you said that this was kind of part one of the project. What would second part?
Step one. Step one in the sense of really developing a research base, because now we have space, room, and commitment from Cal State San Bernardino, and in the sense of developing an archival base and developing also an oral history base and developing the materials. My colleagues have been very, very much involved in terms of doing the same thing for the Inland Empire. And in fact, a book like this by Arcadia Press will be coming out on the Inland Empire. There's another one scheduled on Orange County. And what is really momentous is that now we've established connections not just regionally, but throughout the nation, that we have a lot of other groups and organizations and individuals who now send materials to what is now called the Latino Baseball History Project. So that has been kind of the key development within these last 3 years or so that we've been able to do. And there's, for instance, my colleague at Cal Poly, Richard Santillán, he's teaching a course on baseball history, which kind of follows in the wake of what I've done. And then Jose Alamilla will do the same thing, and I'll probably return to do something like that, in a couple of years. So it's kind of like it's throughout the CSU, which I think is another important development, because quite frankly, as you know, the CSU is not funded to be a research-based institution, to have archives. In fact, there's only really one archivist position in the CSU, and that's in Dominguez Hills, and that's for the CSU archives. And so what we've done is basically at a teaching institution is that we've tried to develop a research center, so to speak, that's devoted to Latino baseball, and it's the only one in the country.
How is the word getting out to people to donate? Is it word of mouth?
A lot of it is word of mouth. I think the book is obviously one of those advertisement tools. We have newsletters that go out. We have a website as well. What we do about twice a year, we have an event called a reunion, and in the reunion we send out to the membership, and that usually draws other people that come. And so we set it up like in a large ballroom type of area. We have scanners right there, so people will come and bring their photos, and then we scan them right there. We'll also then write down people's names and addresses and contact information to schedule interviews. Sadly though, the list is huge, but we don't have a huge group of research assistants. We have a number of grant activities going right now. So we have an NEH grant that's in the making right now. So hopefully this will help. But there's also a lot of patience with the historians that are involved in it, the archivists involved with it, and I would also say the players, their families, and others. So they're also committed to it, and they see this history as important. We sometimes like to say, well, actually the books that we've done, the questions that we ask, have really less to do with baseball per se. They have more to do with the community and how baseball was this vehicle for social economic mobility, how baseball was a vehicle for an education, for a career, how baseball was a level playing field, so that during the period of segregation, Mexican players could test their skill and talent against Anglo players, African American players, Japanese American players as well. So those are some of the issues that we've uncovered. Also, gender enters in. This book, I think one of the weaknesses of it And part of it was that we just didn't have enough time. And that's why in no way is it comprehensive or definitive, is that we did not give as much attention in the LA area to women and women playing baseball. We were able to give, in the first chapter, some attention to women teams that played throughout the United States. But that, I suspect, is something that we're going to be doing much, much more of. And so we're developing that quite a bit. And some of the preliminary interviews that we've done in that regard have really been exciting, really spectacular. And we have a woman historian that does work on women baseball players, and she just joined the group. So I think a lot will be done.
Could you speak a little bit more on the transnational aspects of this? So there's between Tijuana or Mexico, Hermosillo.
Right. Yeah.
I think I noticed in the book that there was a Hermosillo connection.
Right.
Teams coming from that specific area.
Yeah, what we have uncovered so far, and this has been primarily, as I was saying earlier, during the era of segregation. So we're talking about teams that basically from 1880s, 1890s into the 20th century until the late 1950s and 60s, that many individual players that were very good and talented were not seen by the scouts in terms of Major League Ball. And many of them found it very frustrating. So many of them would then go play in Mexico. So there's individual players that would go south. Even if they were born here, Mexican Americans, they would go and play in Mexico. And as baseball developed here, it's just natural because of the transnational identity that the community has, that Mexican teams then would come and play in LA. And what also helped in that regard, as we've been able to uncover here for Los Angeles, is that in the 20s and 30s, we just went after that, in the 20s and 30s, the Mexican consulate was always attending the games, always appearing with teams, etc. Rafael de la Colina, who was the consul during the 30s and later on moved up into the hierarchy of the Mexican consular service, and later on became ambassador to the Organization of American States. He was a great baseball fan, and so I've been able to get photos of him in different stages of his career, always taking photographs with Latino players. So this, I think, kind of helped and promoted, because the consuls then would use their good offices, so to speak, to kind of promote this type of activity. And so as these teams played in LA, they would draw huge numbers. And from the oral histories that we've been able to uncover, is that for Mexican American youth, particularly for boys and men, this was kind of an inspiring thing to see, because the Mexican American teams then would play Anglo teams and Japanese teams, and then they could see Mexicans winning. And then also for youth, it was making an ethnic connection for them, because then they would see the teams coming from, sometimes it was in central Mexico, not just on the border areas, not just from Ciudad Juarez, etc., but sometimes from Chihuahua, further south. There are occasions in which teams even came as far south as Mexico City. They would come up here, they would play, and that also kind of further Mexicanize Mexican American youth growing up here. And then there's also occasions in which the teams then would go to Mexico. Usually the way it was more on the frontera, but there are teams that would go further south. And so that also kind of brought about and contributed to their transnational identity as really Mexican Americans. You know, so it was we need more work with it, but those are some of our preliminary findings. So I think it's just a fascinating aspect to look at.
The Latino community seems to have, on the one hand, baseball helps with forming community and forming identity. On the other hand, there's this tense relationship it's had with the professional baseball teams, like the Dodgers, who literally divided.
Yes, right, exactly right. Yeah.
How do you see that identity and community forming and this clash with these major baseball teams? And is there does what the communities formed in the local baseball community, does that translate now into the professional teams? Do you see now the relationship with the Latino community is with the professional teams as opposed with its local,
Yeah, I think you kind of summarized the direction where it's gone. I think baseball was hugely important in the early 20th century. 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and in the 50s it starts changing with the arrival of the Dodgers. And it was really the place to be. And one way that that's reflected is that these venues that they use, White Sox Park in LA, they were always filled to capacity. So it was like standing room only. And then also the politicians, for instance, longtime congressman, city council member, and we have the institute named after him right here of gerontology. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank right now. But he and other politicians would always come. Oh, that's it. I can show you that. Okay? Let's show you that.